Welcome to our second installment of Symphony 101, a series of short educational videos where answers to some basic questions about orchestra are provided and also some fun facts about symphonic music are presented. My name is Mariusz Smoli. I'm music director and conductor of Acadiana Symphony Orchestra in Lafayette, Louisiana. Today, I would like to answer some of the most frequently asked questions about music and symphony orchestra that are coming from people who are not quite familiar with the world of symphonic music. The first question is, what is the difference between symphony and orchestra? Well, a symphony is a name for large-scale musical composition, usually with 3 or 4 movements. An orchestra is a group of musicians with a variety of instruments which are needed to perform that composition. A symphony orchestra is often called symphony just to be short, and it needs to have the number and kind of players needed to play a composition called symphony. Another name that we often hear being thrown around is philharmonic. Well, philharmonic is referring to a music-loving companion, and sometimes is being used with the names of the orchestra, but it means rather the entire organization rather than the ensemble itself. Why do the musicians wear such formal clothes at the concerts? Well, the tradition of orchestra musicians wearing formal clothes started centuries ago when they performed as servants in royal houses. Today, it's more about dressing similarly so their clothes don't distract from the music. For classical performances, you will still see more formal gear, but for pop concerts, you will see more casual wear. In terms of audience members, some of us like to dress up for concerts, but plenty of us just wear jeans or t-shirts. We really don't care what you wear, we just want you to have fun. Another frequently asked question is, when do I clap? Well, musicians don't really object to applause at any time, and audiences at most of our classical concerts usually wait till the end of the piece to start the ovation. If you are not sure when to clap, you can check the program. Beneath each piece there will be movements or sections clearly indicated. The audience will usually wait until the last movement is over to start clapping. If you are still not sure, you can keep your eye on the conductor. When the piece is over, he'll put his arms down and turn to the audience. If you are still not sure, wait for the others to begin clapping and then you can join in. Another interesting question that I got to ask many times is, why do the musicians play a few notes before the conductors actually comes on the stage? Well, before the conductor walks on stage and the concert begins, the musicians need to be sure that their instruments are perfectly in tune with one another. In order to do this, the concertmaster, the first violinist, stands up. Then the oboe plays a tuning note, note A, often tuned to his own personal electronic tuner to make sure it's absolutely perfect. And then musicians play the same note to hear if they are exactly in tune. The string players just use the open A string, and other instruments change the setting on their instruments accordingly. The reason why the oboe plays the tuning note is simply a tradition, and also because the oboe has a very clear and penetrating sound. Another question that very often pops up in our conversation is, how do musicians know how fast to play a piece? And why are all the terms in Italian? Well, one of the most basic and important aspects of interpreting a piece of music is determining the speed or the tempo. A composer's most accurate way to indicate the desired tempo is to give the number of beats per minute, kind of a mathematical marking. Very often, especially with the older music, we did not have that mathematical indication. In classical music, it is customary to describe the tempo of a piece by one or two words. Most of these words are Italian, because many of the most important composers in the early part of music development, which is the 17th century, were Italian and sort of dominated the vocabulary same way as English today dominates the computer language. Some of the common Italian tempo indications are as follows. The very slow tempo is called adagio. A moderate tempo it's called moderato. A tempo which is fast, quick and bright, it's called allegro. An extremely lively and fast tempo is called presto. Although Italian has been the prevalent language for tempo markings throughout the history, some composers are writing their own tempo indications in their own language, and a good example is the most famous American composer of the 20th century, Aaron Copland, who simply used English versions of all the Italian terms. That's all for this installment of Symphony 101. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again with Symphony 101 with Acadiana Symphony Orchestra.